Good morning. It's Greg Chambers, GoLeads Marketing Solutions. And today, what we're going to do is it's 11 o'clock and we try to start right on time and go for a half hour roughly. I will try to not be so wordy on this. The reason you're here is because we're going to talk about landing pages. Specifically in this, this is like the 7th or 8th of the a piece of our lead generation series, and we're just taking different parts of lead generation that we use to help people and to help ourselves generate leads. And we're going to talk about what it is that we figured out internally. So that's what this is today. So welcome, and if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, there's a chat section, and that's monitored by Nui, and Nui helps me keep track of all these so that I don't lose them over time. And then there's also a Q&A section, and I will check that at the very end after I run through the 6 simple steps. My little alliteration there will run through that. So let me get to the right place. Today's agenda, what we're going to do, we'll start with basically kind of defining these terms, what we mean by landing page. We'll go through news of, there's some noteworthy news I want to share with you. The 6 simple steps, and then we'll wrap it up, and I'll give you the handouts, well, the handouts will actually come to you in an email that gets sent usually at the beginning of the following week, which is going to be on Monday. So if there's anything you're hoping I cover today, you can ask that question inside the chat. It goes to Nui privately, I think, and then she can make it public, or either you can share it with the whole group, and then I'll make sure to cover it when the time comes. So let's talk about this news of note. There's this article that got emailed to me by Bill Matern, and it's about this new proposed data privacy law. And this guy, I think, is going to be a regulatory disaster. But what he likens it to is this whole GDRP. If you've not been, or GDPR, the laws that took place in Europe, if you start getting a whole bunch of update to our policies, notifications in your email earlier this year, as the summer was going on, it was everybody trying to comply with the European Union's data laws. And this person is saying, you know, it's what would happen if this went the same state by state by state. And what a mess that would be to try to regulate it. So it's like if you thought the GDPR, see, I did it right there, GDPR was going to be difficult to comply with. If you had European business, what happens if it's all 50 states? All this, the reason I brought this up with landing pages is because landing pages, one of the things that's inside here is it shows Facebook on the little picture there, is Facebook and Google. A lot of us are relying on them to help with list management, and we're marketing to the list that they've helped compile for us. And if privacy laws get tightened and consumers and businesses can lock themselves down a little bit, it really takes it almost back to our time in the 70s, which is what is our internal database doing, and how are we making that manage? So, or how are we managing that? Basically, how is our list marketing game? How is our internal list marketing game? And complying with the rules that they set forth. That is loosely affiliated with what we're going to be talking about, which is landing pages, which is you need to be adding people to your database, I guess is the whole point of this. And so this is how we're going to be starting. We're going to run through 6 simple steps. And it looks like Nui asked her, or she just made a comment in there. 6 simple steps. We're going to talk about choosing, but choosing wisely. We're going to talk about 3 parts we'll talk about different types of landing pages, and we'll go through 3 parts, and speed. We'll cover speed. We'll talk about upcycling our old stuff. We'll address the question, should we? Because we get asked this a lot. Should we be doing this? Should we be doing that? And then we're going to talk about spying on the smart rich kids who have things going on. So let's jump into number 1. Do you remember this from the Raiders of the Lost Ark? I think it was the 3rd one, The Last Crusade, where the old man, we get the choose the grail, choose but choose wisely. When we think of landing pages, one of the things that we had to do internally is the more of us that dealt with trying to build landing pages, we had to, what we came up with the conclusion is that there's actually multiple kinds of landing pages. First of all, there's the search optimized. So if we were just optimizing for the search engines, there's a type of landing page that we would build that is trying to attract organic traffic. And then it's different though from what you do with paid ads and optimizing a landing page for paid ads. And what we end up doing in here is we kind of shoot the gap at GoLeads, and we do more of a hybrid approach. So let me explain that a little bit deeper. With search optimized ads, so this one I did, it was how to build SEO friendly landing pages. I think it was a search optimized landing pages. And if you pulled that page up, it's a page from Instapage that shows up as #1 on that particular search. It's a long post, right? It's optimized for the search engines. It's 2,500 words. It's very comprehensive. It has a lot of sections, a lot of graphics along the way as they try to teach you how to build SEO-friendly landing pages. And the call to action, there's a little call to action up in the corner, which is try Instapage. And then at the bottom, there's a book that they have, which is their second call to action. So that would be what I would consider a search optimized landing page. They know the types of keywords that they're trying to rank for, and they are working to get those organically. So they have invested in a lot of content around that and then testing that content over time for the search engines. On the other side, doing those, a very similar search, this is still Instapage, the same, it's a landing page company that they have a tool that lets you ramp up landing pages real quick. And we've used that internally. It works really well because it's got a bunch of templates and you can test things really quick. But if we're buying paid traffic, so when I clicked on the paid ad, it sent me to this. And the one thing you'd notice is that I'm being generous if I say that there's 300 words on that page. And the click to action is the very first thing you see, or the call to action, I'm sorry. The call to action is the very first thing you see, right? Build a powerful landing page platform, and you need to try it right now, right? Free trial. And there's a few reasons why and a few examples of customers, but it's really geared towards converting you right up front. Where we play most of the time is we will use search optimized pages where we know that what the terms are that we're trying to rank for. The challenge is, and we'll get into this, the challenge is a lot of times we don't know exactly what we're trying to rank for. So when we try to build search optimized pages, a lot of people have approached us and built these for us, and we end up optimizing for anything, right? We say, well, roughly it's got to be around here somewhere. So we're going to build a bunch of search optimized pages, and it doesn't work. Paid ads, on the other hand, you can drive traffic immediately. You can get results, but you're paying for it, right? You have to, every click that you buy, you're paying for. So what you'd love to do is to have the mixture of the worlds. When we're building landing pages, a lot of times what we're doing is we're trying to shoot the gap. We're trying to take our best guess on the search optimized and build some search optimized content, but we're also driving traffic through paid ads, and we're actually testing the words that we think that we're supposed to be there. And so we have call to action up front. So our first step in getting better at building landing pages is we'd suggest using this, using these 3 ideas. Like, what are we trying to do on this? Is this one that we know absolutely is going to be, it converts for us, and this is where our customers are playing and we know how to convert them? That's search optimized. And so we're going to build that page a little differently than we will the paid ad optimization. So Instapage, just as a for instance, when we use Instapage with clients, we've used it more on the paid ad side for a few reasons that we'll talk about. But we end up, it's mostly call to action focused. And then what we're trying to do is we're trying to record those keywords. So if you've sat through any of the other presentations we've done on AdWords or anything else where we're trying to look for search terms, that is what we do under the hybrid side. So we're trying to mix those 2 things. So make sure you're doing what you're doing, you know what you're doing. And if you have to default to a hybrid page, know that you're doing it up front and that it really isn't, it isn't a great example of search optimized or paid ad optimized. It's kind of a best guess in the middle. How about this? Step 2 is 3 parts. So when thinking about those search engine optimized landing pages, this is the way that we approach those pages. Is we consider them, right, there's going to be content on the page that is relates to the search, that the intent of the user as they're doing their search, that answers their questions and helps them make good decisions. There's the code on the page, which is really built for the search engines so that we can be found on the search engines. And then there's links to the page, which help tell the search engines, hey, this content and this code, so that you've combed the page, but the votes are coming in from the public, linking to this page, saying, hey, this is where this is going to be valuable for this particular search, right? So that's a really bad description of how the search engines work. But let's explore this graphic just a little bit. So if you have good content on your web page and you have good code, that's all you really need for a lot of long tail terms. And when I say long tail, if you've ever seen that the long tail concept, if the graphic that goes from high demand to low demand, a lot of those long tail terms are very valuable to us, and so we use them a lot. We're always searching for them because there's not a lot of competition, and we can get there by building good content and making sure the page is coded correctly. So actually, that's when you think of all the traffic that's happened on GoLeads, that's really where, this is where we generate almost all of our inbound business, is by just having decent content about answering a particular question and it's coded correctly. On the other hand, if you have great content and you have links, there's a good chance, if you haven't coded the page properly, that you're missing opportunities. And that's all that's saying. So oftentimes there is great content out there and it's being linked to, but when it's not coded correctly, the search engines don't like to mess around with it. Conversely, if you have great coding and you have a lot of links, but the content is bad, there's a good chance that even though you're driving traffic to it, it's going to miss conversions, and that won't be what you're looking for. So the holy grail is you have a healthy mix of great content, it's coded correctly, and you have a lot of links coming in. And that's for competitive high traffic terms. So what I wanted to point out to you here is the hint is, oh, I hit too many buttons, is that top one, content and code, is really the only place you need to start if you're not looking for those high traffic competitive terms. If you're trying to rank pages for high traffic competitive terms, it's a lot of work, but in the between time, if you start with great content that's coded correctly and drive traffic through there and it converts, that helps pay for all the rest of the efforts to get to the rest of them. So that's our big hint right there is, we say, look at in the mix, the easiest is number 1, hardest is number 4. So focus on content and code is hint number 2. Step 3, I guess it's 6 steps. Those aren't 6 hints, but the pay-per-click landing pages, right? So if we go back to the previous slide where we were talking about the difference between a search engine optimized landing page and a pay-per-click optimized landing page, this relates to the pay-per-click landing page. And basically what we know is that we know that we need to be consistent through as we're driving traffic, right? So our internal acronym is TACO. It's too bad it's not tachos, if you've ever had tater tot nachos, tachos, but it's the TACO. And it is, it starts with the term, right? What is the term that we're after? Then the ad needs to match the term. The headline needs to match the term in the ad. The copy needs to support the term, the ad, and the headline. And then the last thing you have is an offer. So as long as there's consistency through there, you're probably doing a good job with your landing page. So that's probably obvious to you, but it's something that we look at as we're going through and building ads and pages. The copy needs to focus on outcomes. So when we're building the copy on our landing page, one of the things that we're focused on is not what we do, but what the prospect is going to get, right? So if we have built an ad and we can focus on the outcomes, people buy outcomes, customers buy outcomes. So that's what we're focused on inside the copy. So these are the hints to build these pages. We want a strong call to action. We have a couple examples of people that they know what the strong call to action is, but they don't want to do it because we know that anything that we can give away for free that has a high perceived value, but ideally a low cost to us, is the best type of object to give away, right? Or the type of product or service. So the stronger the call to action, the better the pay-per-click landing pages, because people are, they're usually out searching, looking for things. And then the last piece that we use when we're building content on the page is the at-a-glance rule, which is if you are picking through, and Roy's trying, I could show actual examples. The actual example of which one? Do you want to see actual examples of each one of these? Because what I'll do is I'll run through them and then we can go back and I can pull up some examples that I've took the little pictures of, if that helps. But the at-a-glance rule is, can you peek at that landing page and at a glance tell what it is? So the difference between a search engine optimized landing page and a pay-per-click optimized landing page is the pay-per-click landing page, you can usually, you get the gist of it just by glancing at it, whereas the search engine optimized one is really built to educate long-term. And then you got to test. The challenge with all this is you could do every single one of these things, but if your page isn't fast, it's not going to work when it comes to pay-per-click landing pages. So one of the reasons why we used Instapage while we're testing is because Instapage has shown time and time again that they can build very fast landing pages for us. So faster than the ones that we can build internally, and fast loading is what Google is. So if you use the Google PageSpeed, if you just search for Google PageSpeed, the Google PageSpeed insights, you can put in the page that you're trying to market, that you're trying to use as your landing page, and it will give you some scores. So in that case, I pulled up the Lead Gen Compass, which is a new site that we've built. And on the mobile, it's fast, but on the desktop, you can see it kind of gives a little orange exclamation point where it tells us that there's some things that we need to do to help make that page faster. So pay-per-click landing pages, the step to success is make sure it's fast, whereas on the other pages, that's maybe not as big of a concern. All right, upcycle the old stuff. In this concept here, page, we're going to talk about content flow, because as people have been adding content to their pages over the years, the first thing we start with is customer questions, right? So we go to our customers and we say, hey, customers, what is it that what are the questions that you're getting from your customers? So our clients will tell us these are the most common questions, right? They survey the salespeople. These are the common questions that we get, and then we start building content around those pieces, right? So if we can put, if your actual customers are asking your salespeople and your customer service people questions, if you can get, that means that they're asking those same questions of the internet, of Google, and so we can get them, right? So we can put the term out there, we can put a blog around it, and then we can test the term with pay-per-click. So we can say, is there anybody searching for this? And that part of this is I'm assuming that you've actually, that maybe you've did one of our AdWords webinars before. And in the AdWords webinar, what we talked about is the reason we use pay-per-click is because we can see what the actual search term is, so that we know whether or not the term is generating some, is going to convert for us. So when we talk to, when we build the content, we end up blogging around it, we surround it with more content, we watch analytics. And then what ends up happening over time is that we see old posts with no traffic. So if you're using Google Analytics and you pull up the landing page report, and there's pages you don't see that they've not driven any new traffic for I'd say 6 months to a year, then they need to go into the upcycling program. And what is the upcycling program? The easiest way to think about it is think about it in terms of writing a book. One of the great examples of a content-driven search engine page. Moz, the search engine optimization company, they built their whole business on this type of content, which is, so this one is their highest ranking page, which is the Beginner's Guide to SEO. And if you look at it, it's basically a book, and it tells you everything you need to know about how to do search engine optimization. So it's like a course, and it's just available to anybody who comes to the page. But these are all the questions that they've been asked over the years. And when you really break that down, it's really a bunch of individual blog posts that have been compiled together into a single document. So you can either click through all the pages, or if you click on that red corner, which is download the PDF, that's usually where you have to sign in. I don't know if they still have the gate in front of it, but you put in your email address to get the PDF, because it's a lot easier to read than trying to do it online. And in exchange for that, you've just paid for it with your email address. So when we're asked to help with sites, oftentimes we see old content that has been put out there and nobody's touched it for a long time, and it's really not doing anything. Instead of creating brand new content, oftentimes what we need to do is we need to upcycle the old stuff. We need to take the old content, break it into chunks of, this is topics that we've been writing about, and then make some super posts trying to drive it on the ones that are attaching it to the ones that are driving more traffic, if that makes sense to you. So in this case, the actual example is, if you go just type in Moz Beginner's Guide to SEO, or type in a guide to SEO, and usually the Moz is, this post is one of the top 3 or 4 searches that are on there. So that's step 4, is take any old content that's not performing and run it up into new pieces of content, trying to create search engine optimized landing pages. This question, should we get this all the time, and it's generally around the lines of, hey Greg, should we use video? Because I saw this page on video. Or, you know, when somebody lands on our page, should we interrupt them with a lightbox request? So in this case, at Bloomingdale's, you can get 10% off your next order by giving them your email address. Or I see a lot more of these where you try to mouse off the page, because you're going to either go back or maybe close the tab, and then it gives you an exit offer before you leave. You know, like in this case, Taft, do you want to get 10% off your first purchase? So 10% off seems to be the call to action that the retailers have hung up on. And so the question is, should we try each of these different offers? And the answer is, we need to test it. And so the only way to run straight tests and get good tests is, or the easiest way, is to do A/B testing. So A/B testing, if you're not familiar with it, is running 2 variations of something against each other, right? So if I had a regular Bloomingdale's page that people are landing on, like the homepage, and I'm not using the lightbox, that's my A. And then I split the traffic, and then I compare it to B, which is, you know, half the people are getting this pop-up box. Simple A/B, right? We're not testing multiple variables. We're just trying to test one variable between A and B. But the trick is, we need an A. And with a lot of our customers, it's hard to say if video is going to work better, if a pop-up is going to work better, or if an exit offer is going to work better than what they're doing currently, because we've not stuck with anything long enough to get good information as to how it's performing. So for instance, that Salesforce Cloud Overview demo, that may be the A. It could be video, but we can't answer the question, is video better, until we run another version that does not have video and send similar traffic to it. So Greg, you say that how much traffic should we send to it? In general, you're looking for, if you can get at least 100, then you have a chance of being statistically significant. The challenge with a lot of our long tail terms, as you know, is that it takes a long time to get there, even when you're paying for traffic. So we try to balance those pieces of trying new things with things that we know. You have to know at least how well it works before you can improve upon it, is the piece right there. And then number 6, the Smart Rich Kid. If this is my shortcut for if I'm not really sure what to do. And actually, it kind of talks to Roy's question here, which is, uh, examples of landing pages as we're, if you need inspiration on how to build or what to start with. I always start with the smart rich kid, right? Salesforce, PayPal, Amazon, any Amazon landing pages. And the idea is this, is that if Salesforce right now, if I went to their website just before this, just to double check. And when you look for job openings that have the word marketing in them, there's 600 job openings. For most of the people that we work with, we don't have 600 people in our company, let alone 600 people that are tied into the marketing function, or a dozen people who have landing page in their job description. So knowing that, it's not guaranteed, right? It's a shortcut, but in general, if one of our larger companies is doing it, there's a good chance that it's worth emulating, at least to get started for yourself. So pick out ones that you think are working for them. So in this case, I did, these are all pay-per-click landing pages. And based off of searches for some of the larger, I was just searching for terms that I thought that Salesforce or PayPal or Amazon would be interested in trying to sell. So in this case, cloud services or accepting the credit cards and a CRM. And so inside of each of these, by studying them, it gives us a good idea of where to start with. It's not guaranteed, right? It's a heuristic, it's a shortcut. But if the big people are doing it, we should be curious about why it is that they're doing it. Which reminds me, as you're doing your own marketing and you're looking for long tail terms, if you see any of these big companies around any of the terms that you're searching for, you should be curious as to what it is that they're doing and why it is that they might be there. Like, how did their ads show up? Is it just because, right? Just because they're smart and rich doesn't mean that they're good at what they do. There's plenty of examples of big companies. Right now, if you're in the search engine optimization world, there's a lot of jokes around about Google making fun of some of the Google product people not being very good at search engine optimization. I don't know how true it is, but just because the accomplished kids, just because you're doing it yourself doesn't mean you're great at it. So we take all this with a grain of salt, but it's a great shortcut for moving forward and getting unstuck off of pieces. Okay, so that was it. So I wanted to run through those quick 6 steps, right? The first step in getting better at landing pages is deciding which type of landing page you're actually building. Is this one search engine optimized? The trick there is you need to know what you're optimizing for pretty specifically and have tested calls to action so that you can generate traffic there. Pay-per-click is a little bit easier because you can pay for the traffic, and then you're really focused on making sure that the message is consistent. Or is it a hybrid, which we do a lot, which is we're kind of take a guess while we're building this pay-per-click landing page, we're going to go ahead and try to optimize it for the search engines just in case, because we may be better off. So it's easier to do the hybrid. On search engine optimized pages, if you could focus on content and technology before linking, we find that that's the easiest way to get some of those long-term keywords producing quickly on there. If you're doing pay-per-click pages, then no matter what you do, you could make sure that it follows Tacho and that it's taco and make sure that it follows through so that the user intent is obvious all the way through, but then make sure it loads fast, because that's probably the most important thing. When somebody clicks on an ad, there can't be a delay. And Google actually fixed that, because Google was doing some weird redirects that every once in a while took a page a little bit longer to load. They're going directly. They've done some, I don't know, some sort of coding change, but it makes the pages load faster, and that's in the new Google ads. So that's good. Upcycle your old stuff as you're going through your old content. Find that content. If you're messing around with terms that you know are around what your people are searching for, you can take old content and repurpose it, bring it together. We used to take 3 blog posts that were about the same concept and put it together into a white paper and use that white paper as a giveaway, but then also as a long form content, cornerstone content, it's also called, trying to see if we can get it to direct some new traffic in, get some links. Sometimes people think that that's worth linking up to. So that's upcycle. Should we do all these questions that people ask? The answer is always, I don't know. What's working for you now? And then let's see if it improves upon it. So before we ever get to making the expensive video, can we convert without video first? And then see if the video helps it on that part. And then if you're looking for ideas, spy out the smart rich kid, borrow liberally. So on there, Roy, I didn't see if there was a specific example that you wanted to see, like of the type of page, but I can show you how I would go about finding one, because I'll just pop up in a browser if you're interested. But in the between time, let me go ahead and give you these, show you what these gifts are going to be. You will get a link to this. All examples are helpful. Okay, so have you seen, were these enough examples that you've seen so far? Or do you want to see some more? I'll ask you that while I roll through more. Perfect. Let me do that for you real quick. These are the giveaways that you're going to get. You'll get a Human Beings Guide to Business Growth book, which is a book I wrote to give you some ideas on growing your business. The Perfect Growth Formula are for internal conversations that you have, especially between marketing and sales. And then Lead Gen Compass is actually our organization that we've, our group that we've formed that really does nothing but these types of things like landing pages. So let me pull up my browser. Let me open a clean browser so you don't have to. Previously. Let me show you what I do to find examples of landing pages. As we look at all these pages, one of the challenges with it is it's hard to say what works, because one of the things that we're missing is we can see the design, we can see the content, but it's hard to know what the strategy was on there. But let's look at, one of our companies, US Farm Data. So an example of, let's see, dairy farms in Nebraska. So doesn't figure. Dairy farms. I'm not going to do a good job on this. But let's check out what these guys are doing. So this would be an example of pay-per-click. And let's see what it is that they do. Connect to what's real. So looking for dairy farmers, dairy's got it going on. So they're trying to get you to join. Like, so here's an example of, I don't know why, if I'm looking for dairy farmers in the US, right? The Google is still trying to figure out, they're like, are you looking for dairy farmers of America? What is it that you're looking for? We'll throw some videos up here. Like, do you just need to know about how dairy farms work? What's advice for dairy farms? It's not a very, right? Google hasn't figured out from all their searches why people are really looking for this. Is it top dairy states? What state has, right? So they start asking like, hey, do you want more dairy farms? Do you need the largest dairy farm? Like, what is it that you're looking for? So it's broad. But the dairygood.org has decided that anybody who's looking for the word, I'm going to guess dairy, deserves to take a peek at what this is. So this would be an example of, they didn't exactly follow Taco on this, in that if we're looking for dairy farms in the USA, the one piece we'd want to look for is like a list of large dairy farms. So now Google's trying to help us on here, and they're trying to say, okay, how can we help you make a better search here? So here's the like top dairy farms. So a list of dairy farms, but the number is 2015 Dairy 100. So what's this an example of? This is an example of long tail terms that know that there's not enough searches on for the law of large numbers to take effect. So Google is guessing the same as we're guessing as to what the dairy farms are. Let's CRM for insurance. So here we go, Salesforce for insurance. So Salesforce will do a good job because I searched for service, the first thing, right? Transform service engagement with the service financial cloud. So discover, building trusting relationships. So this whole thing is geared towards insurance carriers and customer service reps. So this is a great example of a pay-per-click form, right? A strong call to action, but more importantly, is it loaded super fast and it speaks directly to what it is that I'm searching for. Going down into the top here. So we say Bittrex free CRM for insurance agents, best CRM, CRM for insurance. So these are landing pages for results, right? And the reason we know it's a landing page is because it's not under bittrex24.com. It's under uses, free CRM for insurance agents. And then this one goes into all the details of what it is that it's related around. But if we search, like I'm going to guess if we search here for insurance, we show up at least 7 times the word insurance, right? If we look at the code where we say, where's the code, our H1 is free CRM for insurance agents. So CRM for insurance shows up in there. These are all the indicators that Google would use. Meta keywords. Keywords are really not as important, but this insurance, CRM for insurance, that shows up in here. So there's a lot of indicators to Google that this would be a place to go. And then here we've got a call to action. So Jeffrey Abrams is ready to quote me a project already on there. So this would be a great example of a search engine optimized piece of content, CRM for insurance agents, and it's free, starts free, call. So, right, is that helpful to see? So I kind of talked through it really fast, but okay, good. So those are some examples of how to make these things work, and that's how we approach it when we're doing these projects too. So if it helps you, right, I know there's no secrets on this because like everything, right, it's disguised as shows up in overalls and it's disguised as hard work, as they say. That's just the challenge with doing any of these things. And if you've listened to other webinars that we've done, the more you can measure, the easier it is to get the funding you need from the people that are controlling the pocketbooks to show that you're making some progress towards generating predictable sales leads over time. So thanks for your question, and thanks for everybody's attendance. And if you have any other questions, GoLeads.com, that's obviously our business lists and other lists that we have, email lists and such. Lead Gen Compass is the new company. We'd love to tell you more about that if you're interested, and what we can do for you, kind of an outsourced marketing program. And then if you have any questions, info@goleads.com. All right, I told you I'd take a half hour and somehow I got up to 38 minutes again. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.